All right, we're going to go back to the questions in just a minute, but first, we'd like to welcome Karen from the Seneca Park Zoo. Hi, Karen.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for having me here.
So you have a rat, and this is a Norway rat?
Exactly.
So they come from Norway, right?
Actually, believe it or not, Norway rats originally come from northern China.
No kidding.
And they first came to England via Norwegian ships, but they're originally from northern China.
Camera shy.
Yeah.
How long do they typically live?
They typically live 2 to 3 years.
He seems to be scurrying around there using his whiskers. Does he use that as a way of seeing things, or does he have good eyesight?
Right, exactly. So his eyesight is actually not that great, especially at looking at far away objects.
Okay.
So he definitely relies more on those whiskers and also on his excellent sense of smell. You might notice that Deb, our Norway rat here, is scurrying around me and she's busily using her nose. She loves to sniff around and she loves using those whiskers. Those whiskers are kind of like a cat's whiskers. They
Sure.
feel around a lot.
Yep.
And she's just feeling a little bit camera shy right now. So rats, they all have their own unique personalities. And so Deb is really friendly. And so they use those whiskers kind of like your hands. So it's like if you had hands on
Yep.
your nose,
Yep.
it would be like having held hands, exactly.
Sure.
And he's feeling around, kind of
Right.
like having hands on his nose.
Right.
So he's got really great whiskers. And he's essentially colorblind.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't
so
really
am I,
use-
so got something in common.
Right.
Okay, what is their usual habitat?
So these guys tend to live in forested areas, originally from China. However, they're really, really adaptable. So they're found pretty much on every continent right
Sure.
now. Wherever you can find humans, you can find rats. So they're found on every continent except Antarctica. Because Antarctica is too cold.
And
a
not
little
enough food.
And not enough food,
Sure.
exactly. And so he usually lives in the forested areas of China, but you can find them pretty much everywhere now, including in the cities.
All right. How often will they have babies, and how long before they can have babies?
Oh, so they are known for having a lot of babies.
Okay.
And so so these guys have usually around 6 to 12 babies per litter.
All right. Wow.
And they gave birth to them around 23 days after conception.
Wow.
So it's very, very fast. And they're born naked, and they also do not have a very good eyesight at that time. However, they do grow very, very fast.
Sure.
And so only around 2.5 weeks, they're already eating solid food.
Wow.
And around 3 to 4 weeks, they can actually go off on their own.
Nice.
They're completely independent.
No kidding.
So they do grow very, very fast.
Now, talking about growing, how large do they grow to be?
They can grow to be around 8 to 10 inches in body length.
Okay.
So you also mentioned that they eat solids after a short time. What would a normal rat in nature eat? If it
So
was out-
rats, they can pretty much eat anything. So as I mentioned earlier, these guys are very adaptable. One of the reasons why they are very adaptable is that they can eat almost everything.
Okay.
And so these guys, they tend to like wholesome, nutritious food if given the choice.
Sure.
They tend to prefer those over stale foods. But they do have preferences, kind of like humans. We have
Right.
certain foods we like more than others.
Sure.
So rats, they tend to like nuts,
Okay.
cereal grains, some types of fruit, and also meat and fish,
All right,
if
cool.
given the preference.
Now, what's the difference between a rat and a mouse?
Right, that's a question I get a lot, is what is the difference between a rat and a mouse? Now, mice, they tend to have bigger ears. You'll notice he does have relatively big ears, but a mouse has even big ears
Compared to their head size.
compared to their head size,
Okay.
exactly. And rats, they also tend to, so he's cleaning himself, which is really cute. But rats, they also tend to be larger.
Okay.
And they tend to weigh more than mice, too.
So how are these guys going to communicate with one another? Because like we see in the movies, rats talk, and we know that these guys don't talk.
Right, so I've tried speaking English to him a couple of times, but
Didn't
it hasn't worked yet.
Okay.
But these guys, they have a very good system of communication. They are very social creatures.
All right.
They actually make this what we call a chirping sound. And so they produce ultrasonic sounds. And by ultrasonic, I mean it's really, really high pitched.
Okay.
It's even higher pitched than our audible human hearing.
Sure.
So we cannot hear it, but their mothers can hear it. And so
Okay.
when they're little babies, they can actually make these ultrasonic chirps. And that is kind of like a cry. Is to direct the mother towards them
Where they're
and to
at.
guide her movements in the nest.
Ah.
And they can also make a similar shorter sound, and they use it when they're playing with each other, when they're mating, and also when even humans tickle them.
Sure.
And so it's kind of associated with laughter.
All right.
So they make it whenever they are expecting something good or rewarding.
Cool.
Now, what are the usual behaviors of a rat?
So rats, they are very social, so they do spend a lot of time grooming. So she was doing a really
Yeah, she
good
was.
demonstration of that.
Sure.
So these guys are very clean, actually. So they do spend a lot of time grooming each other. They're also nocturnal, so they do spend a lot of time sleeping during the day as well. And they also really like to eat. So it's kind of like me, I like to eat too.
Sure. So kind of off topic. How are rats going to affect our water supply?
So actually, these guys are kind of known for, they are creating concerns in terms of spreading disease. So these guys might harbor disease-causing pathogens like leptospirosis and salmonella.
Okay.
And this might be passed on to the water system via their urine. However, there's a lot of good things about rats too. They're very intelligent, and because of their intelligence, they can actually make a very good companion as pets.
Nice.
And these guys are a very important food source as well.
To other animals.
Right, so
Sure.
in addition to mice, rats are actually a very important chunk of the food pyramid. And so they do get eaten a lot, and they're a good food source.
Cool.
And they're also great at seed dispersal. They eat a lot of seeds, and they do something that we all do, which is poop.
Sure.
So they move around, and they
And-
poop, and those seeds get moved, and they become trees eventually.
Very nice.
And it's very important for rats who live in tropical rainforests to spread all of those wonderful seeds and trees around.
All righty. Cool.
Well,
Thanks, Karen.
thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
Want to know more about this animal and others like it? Go to our website, homeworkhotline.org, and click on videos. And stay right there. We'll be back in a second.